Well, welcome, Joe. I'd just like to welcome our speaker, Jo Carter, who's going to tell us about her work as a tour guide.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jo. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yay, lovely jubbly, that's what we like. I don't do technical. In 1898, as the outfit suggests, we didn't do microphones, so it's lovely to be here. What a little gem this place is. Down this lane and ta-da, there you are. So thank you very much for inviting me. Yes, today's talk is all about true tales of a tour guide. Now, I'll be honest, I was never the sort of tour guide that was on the bus. I was never the one that went, if you look out that window there, you've just missed, and behind that hedge, down that lane, is where Cliff Richard lives. I was never that sort of tour guide, okay? I was the guide that met you off the bus at your destination, not abroad. It was always historical properties, so I've worked at Warwick Castle. Anybody been?
Okay.
Yeah, well done, because people don't do what's on their doorstep, so I commend you for that. Cork Abbey. Anybody been to Cork Abbey? South Derbyshire? Yes. What did you think?
Lovely.
It's odd, isn't it? It's like Marmite. You either love it or hate it, and I absolutely loved it. It's a bit shabby around the edges, like me. I was there for 20 years. I was at Warwick Castle for 15 years. There was a bit of an overlap, and in between I was at Bosworth Battlefield. Anybody been there? Yay! Well done. Gosh, you have been a lot of places. I absolutely loved my work as a tour guide, and I was always a costumed tour guide, and any excuse to dress up. And I did my ghost talk yesterday in my vampire outfit, so I still get to play at Halloween, which is lovely. Anyhow, so the reason I do this talk is because a lot of the things that you come across when you work somewhere like that, people would never believe you. And somebody said, oh, you should write a book. I'm like, nah, I won't do that, but I'll go and talk about it. So everything I'm going to tell you is 100% true. There are a few things in there that you might think, oh, well, I didn't know that, or, oh, I don't like him. Because I will have a few name-dropping sessions going on throughout this, and I'd like a yay or a boo, please. Okay. So, been very, very lucky. When I went for my interview at Warwick Castle, they told me I'd have to dress up. I was so excited I nearly fell off my wheelie chair, which would have been lethal because there was a spiral staircase behind me, and they would have had a brand new ghost to add to their collection, let me tell you. So, I used to arrive at Warwick Castle in my mini metro. Does anybody remember them? Yeah, they were wonderful. They were like a TARDIS inside. And in that mini metro, I had costume from every period of history that you can think of. Because on the rota, in the staff room, it said, Jo Carter, Royal Weekend Party, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Now, you'd know that somebody had phoned in sick. And you'd be Tudor, Elizabethan, you'd be Regency, you'd be medieval, none of which were as glamorous as the Royal Weekend Party of 1898, I hasten to add. But I had to carry all my costume with me every single day, because I left it at the castle, the reenactors would nick it. So, I used to come out the car park laden with costume, and I used to look round through the archways, it sounds like play school, doesn't it? Through the arch window, and I looked down into the car park, and there they'd be lined up, the Wallace Arnold coaches. Now, you knew if the Wallace Arnold coaches were there, you were going to have a busy day, because there were never just one or two. And they always carried the Americans.
Hooray!
God bless them.
Hooray!
Where are you from?
Originally from Florida. I lived in California, Texas, Virginia, and New York.
You've been around a bit, haven't you? Been up? Oh, yeah. Well, these were the New Yorkers that we used to get.
New Yorkers.
Yes. Now, how long have you been in England for?
For a long time.
Why?
Because I like it here.
Do you?
Yeah. And my husband was English.
That's always the one.
That's
Because of my
what it is.
husband. It's always the husband or the husband's job that people move from beautiful places. Now, I have to be honest, I love America. I've been to Florida. We were supposed to go to New England a couple of years ago for my 50th to see the colours. The C word, which we don't mention, but the colours coming down the M69 are pretty good, I'll be honest. So, when we used to get the big coaches full of the New Yorkers, I used to feel really sorry for them, because they'd spent their life savings on 5 days in the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah. They do Edinburgh, Warwick. Please excuse the accent.
That's okay.
Warwick, Stratford. They got that one right. Birmingham, possibly. Oxford. And London. Never heard of Wales. You ever been to Wales? Beautiful, isn't it? You see, and they'd say, what, that big thing in the sea? Yes, well, might as well be, yeah. But I always found that the Americans loved our English history because you just don't have the age, do you, over there? And just to give you an idea, there was a gentleman called Hank, and he was leaning against the tower, Guy's Tower, like this, out of breath because he'd been up 2 steps. And he was leaning against this tower, and his wife had read on one of the boards that said, this tower, like the rest of the castle, has no foundations. And she was convinced that Hank was going to push it over. It had survived World War II, civil wars, and goodness knows what, bless her, but yes. So they absolutely loved our history. And I went to Kissimmee, Old Town Kissimmee, and oh yes, this is our oldest building. It was built in 1986. I said, mate, I've got socks older than this place. But it was lovely to sort of, you know, educate them and what have you. Oh, my name's Warwick. I must have lived here. Yeah, you probably did. You probably worked for the Earl of Warwick because everybody was given the same surname. So there's things like that, which was lovely. The other groups that I had a lot to do with were the Japanese. Anybody had dealings with the Japanese? En masse? Oh yes. Where? In Japan?
All over the place, mainly through Rotary events.
Yes, yeah. Very, very intense, aren't they?
Yeah.
You find, I mean, where I live over in Loughborough, there's a lot of Japanese students, always very polite. I always said I want a Japanese baby if I ever have one, because they're so cute. But they would always hold the door open for you, Japanese students. You never see them drunk on a Saturday night. It's absolutely lovely. But when you get them en masse together, and this is pre-Tinternet, and they all brought their Fuji cameras, and you get a great big group, and you go, oh, you know, you're telling them about the castle, and you get no response. You could see the tumbleweed going down the road. Now, you like giggling in the right place, so that's always good, but no response at all. And you think, oh, have I said something to offend them? And then all of a sudden, oh, you feel like, oh, God, that. And then, oh, you'll take photo of her take photo of you, you'll take photo of her, and you. And I say, well, you're all from the same town. Have a big group shot. Save your film. Fuji did very well, that's all I say. There is another thing that you need when you're a tour guide, and I always look at the eye to the ceiling because I have been known to pierce the old ceiling tile with this. This brolly is very, very precious to me. It has met Her Majesty the Queen. It is full of holes because it sat on the back shelf of my mini metro, what was the same colour. Yes, I love it, and I kept, well, actually I pinched it, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. I did tell him I was pinching it. It's my Nanny McPhee brolly, which is why it's bent on the end. But this is what you need. Hello, lovely, you're right. This is what you need when you're doing a tour around the courtyard, so that everybody can see who they're supposed to be with. But it doesn't work, because you've all got exactly the same brolly. So you're walking round and it's my group, come with me, follow me. Don't you keep away from them railings. Don't you go near them roads, young lady, you'll be back on the bus. So it came in very handy. The other group that gave me nightmares still were the French school kids. Because there was hundreds of them, all together. And if there was a doorway, that's where they'd stand, right in the middle of it. Their only saving grace was that they all had rucksacks with an handle on the top. And you could get your brolly, like a snook cue, and you could line them up like that and move them all in one go, and they didn't know what had happened, bless them. So this is a very useful tool, and you can get through the crowds when you're desperate for a wee on your break. It comes in very handy. So, I loved my time at Warwick Castle. The only problem that we had was the fact that it was full of waxworks, because it was owned by Tussauds. And they are brilliant. They are superb. Are you okay with me passing a sanitised plastic vinyl wrapped thing round, just to give you an idea of how good the waxworks are? If you don't want to handle it, then please just leave it on the table and somebody else can pick it up. Okay? That that just shows you Stanley the Butler. Hello. Stanley the Butler stood in the antechamber at Warwick Castle like this, waiting to receive your calling card, and that's all he did until you walked past him. And then he did this because he's on a wobbly floorboard, which did not help our cause of, oh my God, are you real? Excuse my French. We came home poked and pinched and black cheeks and bruised bottoms from people who were heading a group going, yeah, look, she's real, look, she's in pain. Yeah, thanks very much. That's when this came in handy. The pointy end. Yeah. Anyhow, so it got a little bit wearing, shall we say. When you have 8,000 visitors a day, it gets a bit tiring. So, as a collective, and I think this is a brilliant, brilliant name for a group of people what don't stop talking, we were known as a gaggle of guides because we sound like geese when we get going. So, our managers decided that as a gaggle of guides, we should be more proactive. I hate that word. I'm very anti-corporate. And proactive is one of them words I'm going to have put on my tombstone. At least it was proactive. Just like that. So, in other words, we're going to get more work out of you than we actually paid you for. So the idea was that rather than just bobbing and curtsying constantly and being poked and pinched, that we should actually do something useful. Now, I'd taken on a project called Laundry, Linen and Lace, and we had discovered a whole load of tablecloths, underwear, you name it, nightgowns, bed linen, everything, and it was all in storage. And there was a great big linen press on the landing at Warwick Castle, which we had shelved out, and we put the fabrics on the shelves, and then we organised all the linen, and it looked wonderful. But we had to cherry pick what we used, because the moths had been through. Now, this particular tablecloth has moth holes in it. I make no apologies for this. This tablecloth was going to be thrown away. This 1960s tablecloth, which I absolutely love, belonged to the Earl of Warwick, and it has D. Brooke embroidered on it somewhere. So that has very good provenance, and I would not let them throw it away. Yes, I'm a hoarder. But I love that tablecloth. It doesn't matter how many times you iron it, it always looks a mess, so it's good for me. The Earl of Warwick's knickers were in the same cupboard, and the moths had had a right good go at them. So they decided that me, being a lady's maid, should sit and mend the Earl of Warwick's pants. Well, if it stopped me being pinched and poked, I was happy to do it, quite frankly. So I sat there in the Earl of Warwick's dressing room, a room there a lady's maid would never have been permitted, if you know what I mean, sitting on a pink velvet chair by the window, watching the River Avon cascade over the weir. Oh, I tell you what, you could have a worse view from your office window. It was beautiful. And I had running water constantly. And then, in the room, there was the valet, made of wax, pouring water into a tin bath, 24/7 until you switched him off at the mains. So I had water in stereo. I'm wearing corsets. It's not a good mix, let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen. When you can only eat soup and yoghurt for your lunch, but you've got a fantastic waistline, which you don't have anymore, incidentally. So, thankfully, there was a loo just round the corner. I sat there then, mending the Earl of Warwick's knickers, and this bloke walks in. I cannot call him a gentleman, for he was not. And he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Oh, sir," I says, "the moths have been in his lordship's drawers drawer. Look at this." And it was like a colander. I says, "This will keep you busy for a bit." He says, "Are they real?" I says, "Yeah, look, it's got a name in it and everything." And he says, "Oh, are you wearing real Victorian underwear?" I didn't answer. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry." He says, "Stand up, let me have a look at your outfit." So I stood up, holding my needle, where I thought his drawers might be, just in case. And I spun round and went, "Oh, nice bustle." I said, "I ain't wearing one." In other words, your bum looks big in this and it's all natural. I'm rapidly going off this bloke, and he says to me, "Oh, it's all right, love." He says, "It's just that you've got a fantastic Victorian figure." I says, "Oh, I'm sorry." He says, "Too small on the top, too big on the bottom. I says, right, pal, choose your exit, you're leaving. You can go head first down the spiral staircase with my boot up your backside, or you can go out the window and face the weir, but you're leaving. Oh, it's all right, love, he says. I'm from Tussauds. I says, it does not make it all right, pal, but okay, go on. He says, how would you like to go to London for the day and be cast in wax? Sorry, what? Well, it's a day off work, isn't it? So anyway, what they were doing another waxwork of Darling Daisy, the Countess of Warwick, the it girl of the 1890s, the lover of the Prince of Wales for 9 years, 5 children, reputably none of them are husbands, get off now. Anyway, they were doing another waxwork of her, and apparently I fitted the bill, but they had to enlarge me up top slightly. So I got to wear Daisy Warwick's original riding habit. The family loaned it to us, and I wore it, having been down to Tussauds to be cast in wax, which was not a pleasant experience. It wasn't a case of stand in a shower cubicle and have lasers fired at you, what they do nowadays. No, they put you in a leotard, and then they covered you in latex. And then you had to stand there for 4 hours while the latex dried in the position that you were going to be in. And somebody had to come and rub my nose for me and feed me my asthma inhaler because I couldn't breathe because I've got corsets on underneath. Anyhow, when we got back, I got to wear Daisy's riding habit, and I got to wear the hat. Now I'll pass this one round. This is Daisy Warwick here in her bowler hat, but that is the riding habit that I was able to wear. Also, she's here wearing her riding habit with a cropped riding hat, which is, I'll start with you, Miss Palmer, which is beautiful. This is a mock-up. They then had a green replica made, and if you go to Warwick Castle, on the back of that piece of paper, you will see Daisy Warwick stood in front of the fireplace in a green riding habit, riding crop in one hand and riding gloves in the other, listening in to the gentlemen's conversation, one of which was a young Winston Churchill. So she kept abreast of politics, this woman. But if you ever go there and you see that waxwork, that is me from the neck down. I am there in body, if not in spirit, for eternity until they melt me down and turn me into somebody else. This is the hat. I love this hat. I got to keep this hat because it was a mock-up. And I said, look, for all my trouble, can I have the hat? I love this hat. So I've got to keep the hat. Now this hat has become very precious to me because this hat is my vampire hat. Now, for those of you who've been to Cork Abbey, have you been down the tunnels at Cork? You've not been through the Broomhouse tunnel from the kitchens back up to the car park? You want to do it. It's very scary, it's very dark. And then we add stuff into it, like bats and rats. And I hide in black completely, with my walking stick in the little culverts off the tunnel that nobody knows is there. And as people come past, I just follow them and stop. And I don't say anything. And they can't see my face because it's so flipping dark down there. And all they see is this black figure. Is she real? Oh God. That's the woman from the plague area. Don't worry, she's not real. So then I follow them again, and as the parents are going, actually I'm not sure about this. I just turn and go, are you awake now? Now, I've been dead lucky where I've been working, and I've met lots and lots of famous people. Anybody met anybody famous? Yeah, who have you met, my darling?
The Queen.
Her Majesty the Queen! Where did you meet her?
At a garden party.
Oh, terribly frightfully nice. Did you have a nice night?
Good girl.
Good girl. Like it. When was that?
Oh, 2003, I think.
Oh,
it was,
right.
2004.
Yeah.
A long while ago now.
Yeah, she's lovely, isn't she? And very sociable, I found, bless her. She came to the castle, but yeah, I'll come to that in a minute. The reason that I'm still wearing this hat is because they did flog it from Cork Abbey, when I worked at Cork Abbey. And Paul Martin was filming in the Grand Saloon. Well, I did not know he was there, did I? So I went up to the top floor, put on my entire black Halloween riding habit Victorian vampire outfit. My character's name was Mina Harper Crew instead of Mina Harker. And yes, so I got upstairs, got all my clobber on, and I just walked down the corridor, past an open door, and Paul Martin was recording in the saloon. And he saw in the reflection of one of the glass cases a figure in black walk past the door behind him, and he screamed like a banshee, and he came running out onto the corridor just as I'm descending out of sight down the stairs. And he goes, "Oi!" I thought, oh, and I looked up and went, "Oh, hello." He says, "Oh, God, you are real." I says, "Oh, not that again." Anyhow, he says, "Come here, you frightened the bejeebers out of me. Give me a hug." So I did, obviously. And somewhere there's a photograph of him giving me a kiss on the cheek and a big hug. But it did go very white in his hair quite quickly after that, so I don't know if I've sort of contributed to that. Right, yes, famous people. Well, I'm going to start off with Her Majesty the Queen then. She came to the castle in... I have to look at this. 1996, Friday the 8th of November 1996, and unless you were dead, you turned up for work. That's your invite. Now, unbeknown to me, my dad was there as well. He didn't tell me he was going. My dad's nothing to do with Warwick Castle, but my dad were a police diver. He used to fetch bodies off the bottom of canals, and all my push bikes. I never had a new bike, but I did have the best bikes, let me tell you. But he used to go and do the sewer searches. Nice. And then they used to put yellow wax when they checked them to make sure they were sealed in case there were any incendiary devices being planted. So my dad pops up from this manhole cover and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" It was very surreal. We knew that Her Majesty was coming 3 years prior to the event. And it was the most fun time I think I ever had at the castle. Because they do say, don't they, Her Majesty always thought that the whole world smelt of new paint. How I managed with the gloss not getting at the back of the throat, I don't know, because I can't manage it. This is the state dining room, okay? This was reliefed in 22-carat gold leaf, ready for Her Majesty's visit at taxpayers' expense, I'll have you know. And the wonderful thing was that it took them 3 years to do it. And every Friday afternoon, when the guys finished at exactly 5 o'clock, they had to keep going, and if that meant opening a new book of gold leaf, then that is what they did. And of course, by Monday morning it would be dry. So we all lined up on a Friday afternoon, had 22-carat gold nails for the weekend. It was really rather lovely. The rest of the place was decorated, and, well, the day arrived. Well, let me tell you, we had the best staff toilet you have ever seen in your life. This is the nitty-gritty. It was gorgeous. It was cast iron with embossed ivy leaves all the way across the head tank, all the way down the pipe, and you would have been proud to put the bowl on your front lawn and fill it with marigolds. It was gorgeous. Apart from the black plastic seat with a crack that used to nip the back of your leg every single time you sat down on it. That was its downside. Now, Her Majesty, if she needed to spend a royal penny en route through the castle, would be using the said staff toilet. Yeah. So the morning of the visit, it had been cleaned, it had been sealed off. This image of a toilet seat in mahogany appeared. Oh, thank you, it's always worth it. Not quite. So anyway, we stood outside on the day. It was freezing. It started off a little like today, and then it clouded over, and then it got colder and colder and colder and colder, and then it started to flurry with snow. So we were loaned a brolly. Now I'm holding this brolly between my knees, and I've got my hat and my scarf and my gloves on, and I've got my Canon Sure Shot Supreme camera. Anybody remember proper cameras?